It's a great show for you today, the Midas Letter. I'm not James West. My name's Howard Glassman. HumbleandFredRadio.com. That's the show I host. It's a radio show, I know. I have a face for radio. I've heard that. Please welcome the co-host of this thing, the only person on this set right now that has any idea what ticker symbol means. He's a legend in this business, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie, Big Ed. Come on, everybody. Hey, just so you know, I like to. How are you, son?
I'm good.
Well, I know. Here's it. Ed's a little tired. I'm sick.
Hey, we're sick and tired.
That's right. It's sick and tired. We're sick and tired. Listen, before I tell you what's coming up on the show today, thanks again for having us on your computers as you're watching this. Some great information about the world of cannabis investing today. First, I've learned a lot from Mr. Ed this week. And one of the things I've learned is, Ed, when you told me, first of all, does the audience know how old you are?
I'm 67.
Right. When you told me that, and I had this discussion with my radio partner, Fred. So it's Humble and Fred, now it's Humble and Ed. I was telling Fred about you, and I said, I met this guy, he's 67 years old, he's in great shape, and you are. And you take care of yourself. But I said, what I enjoyed about meeting Ed is this. Ed comes in on the train, spends the week here in Toronto, you come in from London, you're keeping yourself busy. And I want you to respond to this. A lot of men and women our age, between 55, 65, 70, they retire and then they expire.
What's the phrase? An idle mind is a devil's workshop.
Yes, exactly. The devil's playground.
Look, you got to. The busier I keep, I don't have time to fret about my mortality.
Well, that's it.
And a lot of people do, and they get to my age, or you get a little older, and you start to think, where is this going?
What does it all mean?
That's a question I absolutely. You stay busy, right?
Well, that's what I will say this. I'm being sincere. I didn't tell you this before we started. I look to people like you as an example. It's kind of a model for where I'd like to go in my 60s because you're the same age as my older brother. My older brother still works every day. You work every day. You keep your mind active. Yeah, everyone has this idea that I'm going to retire and I'm going to golf every day. But I think what happens, and I've been thinking a lot about this. I look at you as somebody that has kept yourself you have an occupation, but you're keeping yourself occupied, which is more important.
There's things I do to exercise my mind. I play these stupid little games, like I do crossword puzzles, I do Sudoku.
Sudoku. Yes.
And I do it. Maybe I just like solving problems.
Well, and is that what draws you to investing? Is that? I guess it's what makes you your skill as an investor.
One of the hardest things to do is predict the future.
It is.
So I'm sitting here
trying to.
I'm trying to predict what's going to happen by looking at the charts of up to the present to glean from them clues about what could happen.
Right.
And there are clues. They give you hints, but you have to follow them. If you don't follow them, it's going to be very, very financially disastrous.
I think a lot of people, certainly in the early 2000s, when everyone was going to quit their job and become a day trader. And now you've been watching markets Ed's been doing this for 40 years.
Yeah.
So I remember in the early 2000s talking to some people that were like, oh yeah, I've got myself a Priceline account or something. And I was like, I don't know. It seems to me that if you're going to be dicking around with your own finances, you should want to have a pretty good idea. Now you have been doing this for a long time. When you say you can predict the future by looking at things that have happened in the past, that comes from experience.
Well, I'm sure I can look at a chart and see things that mean a lot to me, but mean nothing to you.
Well, even the things you've shown me this week, I've got a little bit more education. Yesterday when we were looking at one chart, it kind of dawned on me all of a sudden when you were showing me that, some of these days that where the markets dip or the stock would dip and then it goes up again, well, you're seeing those as signs of a bit of a run, whereas a lot of people might go, ooh, the stock went down, I guess I should sell it.
Look, every situation's unique, and then you do work with management. Like you talk to management, you ask some questions, and maybe in a gold play you're talking to the geologist. And PDAC was here this week, so that's a biggest convention, and yeah, you know, there's all these little things you do, but the last thing you ever want to do is think that just because you happen to know about it doesn't mean it's a good thing.
Right.
Which is what a younger person, they see a dealer walk into their office, they think, oh my God, am I ever lucky this guy walked in? He may be the 100th guy on his list.
Right.
You know, so. And if you're living in a little town and a guy walks in the room, be careful, because he probably got thrown out of Toronto. Like, you know,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You live in a little town, be careful. The Music Man may show up. All right. Ed, thanks for that. On the show today, as I mentioned, lots of great information. We're going to meet a lot of cool people. The news coming up, of course, a second or two from now. A little bit later on, Benjamin A. Smith. I had a great chance to talk to Ben yesterday, the Midas Letter financial writer. Ben's going to kind of lay out some things that are happening in the market. We're going to talk to him about a few things of interest to you. Later on as well, Prad Sekar, the CEO of CB2 Insights. As always, you can post your questions and I'll have a look at them. We'll try and get them to the people. Michael Byron, the CEO of Nighthawk Gold. Yeah, Ed's going to talk to him. Barry Fishman, the CEO of VIVO Cannabis as well. And later we're going to sit down with a very interesting character. He's only 35 years old, but he's the CEO of Zenabis Global, and a very interesting bit of activity in their company that some of you investors might want to pay attention to. In the meantime, let's kick off today's show with Ricky Gerwitz and the news.
Here are the headlines moving markets today. Aurora Cannabis is providing an update on its investment in Choom Holdings, an emerging consumer cannabis company that has secured one of the largest retail networks in Canada. Aurora has fulfilled its $27 million of investments in the Choom private placement on June 18, 2018, and the convertible debenture offering on November 5, 2018. Choom has completed the build-outs of 17 retail locations across Western Canada and has 8 additional retail locations currently under construction. BlissCo Cannabis Corp has received a positive initial European Union Good Manufacturing Practices report from the German health authority that recently completed its inspection at the BlissCo facility. Emerald Health Therapeutics Inc. announced that its EndoBliss product won Taste for Life's 2019 Essential Supplement Award, which recognizes the most outstanding natural supplements in health and wellness in the U.S. Emerald will launch the Endo product line in Canada in 2019 after securing Canadian distribution rights for the product line that was developed to support the body's endocannabinoid system, but which does not contain cannabis. FlowerOne Holdings Inc. has announced a new long-term licensing agreement and partnership with cannabis technology and hardware brand Grenco Science. California-based Grenco Science are responsible for the engineering and advanced technology behind the internationally available G-Pen line of cannabis vaporizers. FlowerOne is now licensed to sell, distribute, and integrate G-Pen's proprietary innovative hardware with new cannabis products from its diverse portfolio of brand partners. NanoSphere Health Sciences Inc. announced that work has begun on the production facility for NanoSphere's products in Canada, based at the Delta 9 Cannabis Inc. facility in Winnipeg, Manitoba. NanoSphere signed a definitive master licensing agreement with Delta 9 in January 2019, in a deal that opens the Canadian market to NanoSphere's delivery technology. Koios Beverages Corp. announced that the company has increased its production capacity by partnering with Full Metal Canning located in Longmont, Colorado. This is in addition to the company's current partnership with Golden Global Goods, the parent company of Rocky Mountain Soda. The new partnership grants Koios access to Full Metal Canning's high-volume production line. Namaste Technologies Inc. has announced that Kiran Sidhu and Sefi Dollinger have resigned from the board of directors. The company thanks Kiran and Sefi for their service to the board in the past several years, and the board of directors of the company is now comprised of Lawrence Feenstrad, Brandon Spikes, and Kenneth No. The company is actively looking to add up to 2 additional independent directors to the board and is currently in discussion with potential candidates. And that's your news for today.
All right, thank you, Ricky. I'll tell you the thing that interests me, listening to Ricky's news, is this company, FlowerOne Holdings. You know, the G-Pen line of cannabis vaporizers. You know, full disclosure, people, I don't know if you investment nerds even smoke weed, but you know, the technology behind these pens, the way they're able to sort of not only micro dose, like the specific, it's just amazing to me. Where I'm an ex-cigarette smoker, so I don't like smoking weed. I don't like to combust.
I hear you.
I don't like it.
I know.
I don't like the way it feels in my lungs. And this whole revolution around the pens, I was just saying to Ed during the news there, have you ever been in a dispensary?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. I was out in Victoria last summer, and there's a place called The Farm, which is, and I'm sure they're owned by a big company. I could look it up, but you walk in, and it's so. Well, Ed and I, as kids in the '60s, you spend your whole life sneaking around, finding a place to buy weed, and all of a sudden you walk into it looks like a David's Teas. But what I love about it is it's so out in the open, and the people working in these places are so knowledgeable. And again, back to the FlowerOne Holdings. These vaporizers are so much better and so easier on your system. Are you availing yourself of any of these products?
I have tried pens. I've tried gummies. I've tried.
Oh, the gummies.
Sometimes you got to be careful with the gummies.
You got to be careful.
They can knock you out.
Well, the problem with edibles is just everyone has the same experience.
Delayed reaction.
Yeah, you think, I'm not getting high enough, and then all of a sudden you take some more.
Yeah.
Anyway, all very interesting, and I mentioned to Ed too, we had a chance to talk to Andrew from Strain Print a couple days ago, and Strain Print is such a great resource for finding out what works best for you. And I was just saying, Ed and I both suffer from insomnia, and you go on Strain Print and you see what other people have used, the exact strain. It's not just weed anymore. It's Dynachem. It's OG Kush. And I'll tell you, there are people out there that are battling insomnia and inflammation and all kinds of things, general anxiety with cannabis. All right, that's my little cannabis sermon for today. All right, I know we're going to get to Ben now. With us now, we don't have him now. This is just one of those things where it says it on the prompter, but he's not with us. That's fine. I don't mind that. I'm not afraid of that. Okay. Anyways, so I would just tell you, because Ed told me before the show, he said, I didn't sleep well last night. Yeah. And I said, I take I have a little pen. Here's what I do. At bedtime, I do a little bit of pen with some very mild THC, as well as a little bit of a CBD hit. And I find it, listen, it's not like taking a sleeping pill.
No.
Which is addictive and not good for you. But it does calm you down. It calms that monkey mind down. You know what I mean?
I've taken sleeping pills a couple of times. Yeah. And I got the sense that I wasn't sleeping.
Yeah, it's no good.
I was sort of like there, and I couldn't keep my eyes open. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. It was scary. It was almost like it was on an out of. Anyway.
All right. Well, listen.
I'm not.
Is this? Are you guys telling me we have Ben now? Oh, I see. Reconnecting to Ben. Well, I'll tell you what. One of the cool things, I had a chance to talk to Ben before the show started, and I said, hey, if we happen to get a lull in the action, what could I talk to Ed about? And he said, how about running this by Ed? It's been a strong day for Oceana Gold Corporation, OGC. Big rebound in Amex exploration over here's the press release. If you want to look at it on my computer, have a look there. What does that mean to people?
Wow.
Yeah?
Lots to feel about.
Lots to think about?
Yeah.
Really? Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have... What you just saw was the great mind of Ed reading the press release. When we finish with Ben, we're going to find out what Ed thinks about OGC having an uptick of $4.38. Is that what that means?
I'm gonna go.
He's going to look at it. He's going to look at the chart. Benny, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Howard. Hey, Ed. How are you?
Ed's. I got him going on that OGC stock, and we're going to find out what he thinks about it after. But first, welcome to the show again. As always, great to have you here. Thanks for the pre-show chat. You said there was some minor technical damage seen in many of the Tier 1, I should say, and mid-major cannabis stocks. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, in the sector today, you're starting to see erosion in some of the bigger names, actually right across the board, really. But I would characterize it more as a possible trend change on the hourly chart. I wouldn't characterize it as major technical damage, which would be, roughly speaking, in a lot of these names, a breach of the February low on volume. We're still quite a ways away from that. in most names, but you are definitely seeing some correlation with the market weakness brought about by some of the things going on with the ECB, and it looks like they're going to reissue bank loans and stimulus.
So nothing to worry about there. Both the U.S. marijuana index and HMMJ couldn't get past the February highs. You say that it's rebalancing and seasonality may be coming into play. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course, a lot of the trading and the action in the cannabis space and really any industry is very technically based. So, picture it as benchmarks that if prices can't get by in convincing fashion, then you're going to have sellers come in and take profits with the recent run. And I think you're seeing that in HMMJ. I noted this yesterday when we spoke, Howard, that prices broke through the floor after ticking up about 20-30 cents, but the volume wasn't really there. It came back down, breached the February lows, and then you're seeing the weakness in the market and that sort of pile-on selling since it couldn't attain that benchmark and really get past the February highs. So same thing happened on the U.S. marijuana index, represented by most of the MSOs down south. Just erosion at that high. It couldn't get through in convincing fashion, and then the weakness in the broad market has sort of cemented that, and I think you're seeing people take profits here.
I know this is going to sound maybe like a silly question to you two, but the HMMJ, the marijuana index, and you mentioned seasonality. I'm assuming the marijuana index would be tied to whether it's the S&P or the TSX. I mean, because we're talking about a little bit of a pullback here after the first couple months of this year. Ed, you've been talking about it. Ben, do you have any thoughts about that? Like, how closely tied are the marijuana indexes or indices to the rest of the regular indices?
Well, there's definitely correlation between the cannabis and the broad market indexes. It's not a perfect correlation, of course. There are different categories which are correlated a little bit more, and some that correlated a little bit less. Okay. And marijuana, cannabis being a risk asset, is going to be pretty sensitive to whenever you have downdrafts in the market on average. Now, sometimes we see HMMJ representing the whole cannabis space buck that trend or maintain its ground when the market goes down. But on a really weak day today, it's definitely following its cues and decreasing in price. And like I said, when it couldn't break the February high after it did so by about 30 cents, but the volume didn't come in, and then it broke through that floor again at the February high. I think with the broad market weakness, people decided to take profits here from a market that was up 65% over 10 weeks or so.
Cool. ECB providing a fresh round of monetary stimulus to Eurozone banks in an effort to help struggling GDP growth. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about this yesterday, Howard. It's the theme that the world economies are basically rolling over for the most part. You see, last month it was reported that China is growing at the slowest rate in 30 years. India is slowing down, although it's still 6.5%, still robust. That is decelerating the most in a decade or so, I think. Canada, of course, has been weak. And the Eurozone is now, I think they're only forecasting 0.6 or 1.1% growth after forecasting 2% GDP growth in June. So basically the banks, the ECB just stopped their quantitative easing program to provide stimulus to the banks. They wanted to, have the economies, wean off that and sort of take the reins by themselves. But obviously, they're unable to do so. So the ECB is stepping in. They're going to provide loans to the banks for long-term loans and to try to stimulate the economy because growth is really bad. So it's just another benchmark to show that world economies are sort of rolling over, and there's a lot of weak data coming out, and people, that's not usually very favorable to the market.
Ed, you've been doing this a long time. Ben, as you know, Ed's a veteran prognosticator when it comes to stock. A lot of times when markets start to slow down or stall, people talk about going to cash. Now, let me ask Ed first. Is the marijuana market similar to any market where you look at it and go, maybe it's time to take some out, park my money on the sidelines? What do you say about that?
You know, we've had a big run. We've had a colossal run in a very short period of time, both in the HMMJ, which is a representative of all the marijuana stocks, and the S&P or the NASDAQ or the Dow. Look, it would be prudent at this juncture to take some money off the table. And we've now had 4 red candles in a row on the S&P. First, we haven't had that since Christmas. So we're starting to see, and today's a steeper bad day. Like, it's starting to pick up steam to the downside.
Yeah,
that's
we're
what
going to
I
look
would
at some
say.
charts here in a second, too.
Yeah.
So you're saying, back to you, Ben. This market being, again, like any other market, what do you think about that? Are you, again, I know you don't want to recommend it, but are you starting to look and see maybe it's time to take some money out?
Yeah, Howard, I think there's a couple ways to look at this. I think it doesn't have to be an all or nothing situation if you're an investor. There's nothing to preclude investors to, say, taking a portion of their risk capital for long-term holds and then buying on these pullbacks for a long-term investing horizon, which is probably what I would do. And then you might have another portion of your risk capital, which is more short-term oriented, where if your chosen stock goes up 50% over 10 weeks, it's really hard not to take those profits off the table. I mean, those are big runs. Some of these stocks have run 200, 250%, Canopy Rivers, and there are others, Chiron Life Sciences. So, if you're an investor, probably a smart way to play it is to have some of your risk capital in short-term oriented, where you're going to take those big gains after, if you manage some big runs, and then, take advantage of the weakness, which could be more protracted, say a year and a half, 2 years, taking that long-term view and just adding to weakness. Don't overcapitalize yourself, risk margin calls, and just, take advantage of this weakness and buy for the long term with a, say, 3 to 5 year horizon.
Just one more thing before we let you go. A couple of board members resigned. There was some trouble at Namaste. One the CEO of Halo Labs. Talk to us about that story and what it might mean for Namaste and people that are investing in it.
Yeah, whatever, this news flow is pretty tough. I mean, you had the auditors resigned on February 19th, and that news came out yesterday, and it showed some irregularities in some of their international operations. Of course, we had the whole Sean Dollinger, resignation as CEO recently, and even before that, last year, you had the sexy nurse parties in Montreal, and you had Tilray cancel their agreement with Namaste as a result. So the news cycle has been tremendously bad for this company over a long period of time. The way I view it is I think the news cycle is really so bad. And of course, with today's news, you have the resignation of 2 key board members that you really have to, if you're an investor looking at, if you like the company, you like their assets, you really have to wait until the smoke clears here. I wouldn't be rushing into this stock currently until there's sort of an operational and ideological direction with new board members and such. So you could probably afford to wait and just sort of bide your time until the smoke clears. Probably the most prudent choice here, I think.
Well, I really appreciate the pre-show discussion today, and as always, it's great to have your insights as we get the day underway. In about 36 minutes, the markets will close, and we'll see. I know you'll be watching it, and I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
Thanks a lot, Howard. You're doing a great job. So long, Ed.
Okay. Easy now. Easy there, Ben. Did you hear that? Hey, did you hear that? Ben thinks I'm doing a great job. Did you hear?
Everybody has an opinion.
Everyone has an opinion. Opinions are like assholes, huh?
Everybody has one.
Is that what you're saying?
Tilray stock.
Yes, sir.
Is down almost over $5 a share.
Wow.
I don't think it's been under $70. It's currently $70.65. I don't think it's been under $70 for about 6 months. Okay? So these are things that I say, well, why now all of a sudden?
Yeah, why now?
Well, because Now is when, people are starting to, look at where the rubber's meeting the road. And maybe the fundamentals of the company don't meet the valuation. And they can't see. And then you say, well, why is the CEO selling stock?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he wait if he thought some good things were coming? So I've got the chart up here, and you can see, and it's kind of hard to see on this chart, but I'll do a 3-month chart.
What is this? Whose company? What company is this?
This is Tilray.
Tilray,
which is a behemoth in the States. But look at this. Okay, so, and I find this to be like extremely important. If I had the wherewithal, I'd probably short this stock. So you got this line here, which support, and I wish I could draw that straight, and I want it to be straight, but we've broken down below that line.
Right.
That's a breakdown. Now that's a breakdown. I think that's a bona fide breakdown.
So shorting it means you're going to keep betting it goes down.
Well, you'd buy maybe puts, or you'd buy it, or if you had it, you'd sell it.
Right.
If maybe shorting's not for everybody's cup of tea, but and I got to tell you, I see some real clouds out there right now.
Interesting.
Right now, I'm thinking about. I've gotten some cash. I took some profits on my AMX position, which was in that question. I'm not sure I'd buy it here right now, but I like the stock. I'm looking to start shorting some stocks.
All right. Later on, we'll talk about why you think that's not for everybody's appetite.
Well,
because it's a little more risk.
Look.
Because if you bet wrong, you lose.
Well, not only that, a stock can go up a lot higher than it can go down. It can only go down to zero. A stock can keep going up.
Right.
Theoretically.
Well, right. The theoretical ceiling.
So if you're short, there's no ceiling. Like, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
I've been there.
All right. Well, thank you for your insight as well, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Okay. Up next, we'll be speaking to the CEO of CB2 Insights, which just listed on the CSE. CB2 Insights is a data company focused on medical cannabis. The company uses software and services to better identify the efficacy of cannabinoid therapy and increase the use of mainstream cannabis in traditional healthcare. CB2 Insights manages several sub-brands throughout the medical cannabis value chain, including Canna Care Docs, Sale Cannabis, and TokeIn. They own and operate the largest multi-state medical cannabis evaluation and education center, serving 12 states across the U.S. CB2 Insights is listed on the CSE under the ticker symbol CB2. Well, this is an interesting time to bring on a guest whose company just listed. He is the CEO of CB2 Insights. It's a pleasure to welcome Prad Sekar to the show. Prad, how are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
I know you were kind of around the corner there listening to Ed talking about, maybe it's time to look at the market. We had Ben on talking about, stocks, cannabis stocks in general. Your company just listed. How do you feel about, this time and now in the world of cannabis investing?
It's a great question to ask. My response is simply, we're a business that looked at the capital markets as a real reason for our business to evolve to the next level. The markets behaving the way they would in terms of sector markets, from our purpose, it's really around getting an acquisition, getting a currency for acquisition, which is really our business model at the end of the day. So we're more than anything else just looking forward to having this milestone being reached and now just moving on to the next part.
Well, yeah, you think about it, the company's genesis, it gets to a point when it lists. Just how exciting is that?
It's very exciting.
It's got to be. It's got to be mind-blowing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a huge breath of relief when it actually happens, all the work that goes into it to get it here. And when you're running a real operation and you have a real business going on at the same time, it's definitely, a good place to be.
Well, I was going to say, what I like about your story is just from a human level. You guys had an idea, and you never know where it's going to go, and then one day you get the news that it's going to list, and it's like a huge milestone for you personally, but as a company it means you're going to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been 4 years in the running so far. There's still many more years to go. Part of evolving a business, like anything else, is getting to a certain stage and then requiring, more growth opportunities to come your way. And I think the public market opportunity not only gives us a currency, but also, credibility, more information that we can utilize to, to help shareholders' value increase over time.
Well, I mean, that's kind of part of what I wanted to talk about, what it means for the company. You guys are listed, and as you say, it's been 4 years getting to this point. Considering what we just talked about in terms of markets and a little volatility, we'll say, what do you want investors to know when they start looking at CB2?
We've had one mission in mind ever since we started, and our mission's always been transform cannabis into mainstream healthcare.
Yes.
There's 3 key buckets to our operation. The first is clinical. It allows us access to a unique set of information that today the industry doesn't have. There's a lot of data out there when it comes to the efficacy and the usefulness of cannabis. From our purpose, we want to take it to the next level of validation. So clinical visits allow us to look at patients with physicians and clinicians, the interactions between them, the type of data you can only get in those kind of interactions. The second bucket being technology allows us to standardize how we interact between those 2 stakeholders, track effectiveness and outcomes over time in a more clinical intervention setting. And then the third being the insights in terms of how we take those insights and move it forward. So for us, getting listed is really around now us having an opportunity. In the US, we operate one of the largest evaluation centers, 28 centers in 12 states. Over 60,000 patients a year walk through our doors. This gives us an opportunity now to increase market share, collectively increase more interactions between clinicians and patients, and drive more valuable data insights in the industry.
There really is a paradigm shift when it comes to, clinicians and medical practitioners. Companies like yours on the forefront of, research into how people use cannabis other than just the, hey, let's get high and watch Netflix. I mean, there's that. People do that.
Of course.
But, before we move on to some more financial questions, what about some of the breakthroughs? We talk a lot about, I was just saying to Ed, if you have insomnia, there's a specific strain for that. And companies are getting more and more into micro dosing and being, what are some of the things that you've come across that we might be surprised that cannabis can be used for?
It really varies based on the type of patients that we see. And we see cannabis today usage in 3 buckets. First one is recreational.
Sure.
So you use it as a recreational drug. The second is wellness, which is what we see more of the products today. So,
which is a huge growth opportunity.
Of course, it's a massive growth opportunity. And then we see a third bucket, which is more of a hallmark medication. And so when you think about more of a traditional pharmaceutical medication, it's usually a molecular-based compound. It's standardized over time. It's tested. You have dosing, efficacy, risks, and you have a more prescribed manner as to how to attain it, prescription-based, insurance-covered, etc. We see medical cannabis in the future really as moving into a hallmark drug industry. And so when we...
That's an interesting phrase. I've never heard that. Hallmark drug, meaning like a traditional, this is the prescription that you're going to replace with something less harmful.
Could be something replacing less harmful or something that's more easily understood and adopted. So if you were to go and talk to a physician or a healthcare provider, how do they currently assess you? How do they currently prescribe you? And more importantly, how do they know that the product that you're taking won't interact with any other treatment plans that you're on currently? And that's really important.
Last month, February, you announced the completion of a non-brokered private placement for gross proceeds of $5.74 million. What was that money for?
So majority of it's going to be used for growth.
I want to know every dime, Pratt. No, I'm just saying.
Let's get into that.
Yeah, exactly.
Currency for us in terms of acquiring and acquisitions and consolidating a U.S. market is going to be primarily both driven through public market currency, but also cash. So it's our intention to utilize the cash to continue to build a pipeline of consolidation in the U.S. markets and deploy an execution plan. One of the things that we bring to the table is not just the ability to acquire and consolidate, but also to improve. And so we've proven through execution in the last year where we've acquired clinics in 2017 and have been able to grow revenues and patient count by over 20%, profits by over 100%.
Amazing.
So our ability to take cash, use the cash to make acquisitions, turn those acquisitions into more revenue generating profit centers, and then being able to continue to bolster the value of data over time.
And now going back even further in time, in October, MVC Technologies Inc. announced that it will undergo a significant brand transformation. What was the point of the brand transformation? What was it that was going on at that time? You thought, hey, we need to do something differently.
Sure. MVC Technologies was always the incorporated name of our company. Right. Over time, you get to acquire technologies or acquire assets that eventually come with their own brands. And so when looking at a house of brands approach or a single brand that represents everything, we decided to move more towards a single brand that would represent the real mission of mainstreaming cannabis into healthcare. So CB2 being the cannabinoid receptor 2 in the human body allowed us to maintain a more scientific approach to the type of data we're collecting, and insights obviously being data is really what we're driving towards.
Over the years I've had a chance to host a few events for some big pharmacy companies, and one of the things they always talk about is how long it takes to get a drug to market. Will we see cannabis medicine take the same amount to prove, or will it come to market quicker, you think?
It's a good view into seeing, you're looking at 10, 15, 20 years sometimes for certain drugs to hit the market. And this is an interesting insight. Last year in December, the FDA released the new frameworks for real-world evidence, which basically says anything that's not a traditional clinical trial can be used to generate insights to potentially help bring a drug to market faster. And this could effectively save millions of dollars for big pharma companies. I think this is equally just as valuable for cannabis companies as well. When you're looking at bringing a new drug to market, especially on cannabis-based medications, it can both save time and also money.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because there's a whole sector, the nutraceuticals, sort of the vitamins and therapies, and I mentioned earlier this week about things like saw palmetto. People take that for prostate health, but they always have that, this drug has not been proven to be no FDA approval. Will there be a sector of the cannabis market for medicinal use that, with that proviso that this hasn't had the regular pharmacological trials, will still be available?
I think there's frameworks.
Is that a sector you guys are interested in?
I think we're more focused on the sectors where future FDA approvals and testing is going to be required. It's again where we see more of the traditional healthcare medications going, and especially the value of the data we collect is really focused on that real-world evidence that allows for that future insight generation. I do think, though, however, that you will see other products being introduced to markets. Again, I think more in the wellness bucket than in the medical market, and so it'll just be varied based on what you eventually are looking for.
Well, I'll tell you what, lots of interesting stuff. The CEO of CB2 Insights, Prad Sekar. Anything else you'd like to leave folks with while they're going to quickly scurry and investigate more about your company?
Sure. I mean, like anything else, we always like to tell investors that we've been able to prove our business over the last 4 years. It's a revenue-generating asset that is able to continue to grow based on existing management knowledge and execution tactics. And like anything else, the value of data is something that's been unproven to a large part in the industry. And like most companies collecting data in the industry, I think it's going to be a value at some point that will be realized for shareholders that are looking at it in the long term.
Well, you seem like a nice person. You seem to know what you're talking about.
Sure.
Hope you enjoyed your experience.
Oh, I loved being on the show. Thank you for having me.
Hope this wasn't too weird for you.
No, not at all. Love the questions. I thought it would be more financially related.
Well, we do what we could. We did the best we could. Prad Sekar, thank you very much for hanging out with me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, up next, the CEO of Nighthawk Gold will be speaking with our man, Ed. Nighthawk Gold Corp is a Canadian-based gold exploration company with a district-scale land position within the Indin Lake Greenstone Belt, located 200 kilometers north of Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. Nighthawk is focused on advancing the Colomac Gold Project and its other regional gold deposits within the underexplored Archean Gold Camp. Nighthawk Gold Corp is listed on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol NHK.
Today we have Dr. Michael Byron. He's the CEO of Nighthawk Gold Corp, ticker NHK. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good, good. So you're a junior gold explorer, and your focus is the Northwest Territories. And tell me about your land position. I understand you have a sizable land position.
Yeah, we've got a regional play centered around a former producer, the old Colomac Gold Mine.
Okay.
So we've gone in the early 2010 and consolidated pretty much the entire gold camp. So in terms of surface area, it's about 900 square kilometers. We're located about 200 kilometers north of Yellowknife.
So a bit chilly at night.
Well, yeah, if you're up there in the winter, it's a lot more than chilly.
So when was the last time gold was produced there?
1997, the asset was actually shut down. The former owners, Royal Oak, went bankrupt. And that core deposit then became the responsibility of the federal government of Canada to clean it up. So when we came along, we saw a residual opportunity, and worked on that over the subsequent years and have moved the asset now to over 2.6 million ounces.
So that's a 43-101?
That's correct, yes.
2.6. I remember the late 90s, because I was thinking about speculating, because gold was just kept dropping and dropping, and you know, we put in a bottom, I think, in 99, and then it did a double bottom in 2001. It was a brutal time, so I can see why maybe a project like this might have trouble.
Yeah, I think gold at that time was about $6.50 an ounce. So
and on its way down to $2.50 too.
Yeah. So it wasn't a great time to be a producer of a small deposit.
Yeah.
But you know, with the rebound, and we've actually found more opportunity in that asset than Royal Oak thought it had in terms of a much higher grade
was that
opportunity.
Peggy Whitty? Was
yes.
That? Yeah.
Yes.
So 2.6 million ounces, and how much of the sort of prospective land would you say you've explored?
Oh, geez, about half of the sill itself, but in the regional land package, even less than that. So we consolidated an entire Archean gold camp. So think about it as same sort of geology as the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which hosts all our historic mining camps like Timmins and.
Are there any other credits, or is it mainly gold? Is it
mainly gold? Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And tell me now. You have about 190 million shares outstanding. Mm-hmm. How much cash are you sitting on?
A little bit over 14 million in cash.
And when did you do your last funding?
Last year, actually, we did a top-up of flow-through just to take us, because we initially came out, we were going to drill 25,000 meters, and we actually moved it up to 32,500 meters.
So you drilled, this was last year, you drilled 32,000,
yes.
And then you're going to start another 25,000 meters this year.
That's correct, yeah.
And what price did you do the funding at last year?
Well, 50 cents.
50 cents, yeah. Okay. It's been a tough market for, you know, the junior market has been difficult, I would say. Generally speaking, there's been flashes of brilliance, of course, but so now what is let's talk about the grade. What kind of grade are you?
Well, traditionally or historically, Colomac was a large tonnage, low grade open pit deposit.
Okay.
Of which they mined about 500,000 ounces. So it was hardly touched. What we've been able to do is go back in and build upon what was left and increased it to where we are today at a little over 2.6 with only exploring half of the sill. So, you know, there's an upside of 4 to 5 to 6 million ounces there. At 1.62 is the global grade, but we also found high-grade domains in the system, and those grades go significantly higher, up to 4, 5, 6 grams. So what we're trying to do is move that forward so that we can reinvent Colomac as a large tonnage, low grade opportunity, but also as a higher grade opportunity where we may be able to get deeper in the system by ramping into these high grade domains.
Right. And is there much infrastructure there from when they were producing? Is that?
No, it was reclaimed by the federal government, so it's deemed reclaimed, but there's an airstrip that was left, a 5,000-foot airstrip.
Right.
To put that into perspective, we've landed Hercules on it before, so it's a big strip.
Right.
We use that winter and summer to move equipment in.
Yeah, this is quite a significant project, isn't it? Like, it's not just like you're looking for a couple of veins. So you got a big system here.
We have a big system at Colomac, but the system spans far beyond the boundaries of Colomac. When you think of an opportunity of this scale, where you're talking about a deposit that may contain upwards of 6 million ounces, that requires a very robust system, and usually in the Archean, they manifest themselves over a broad aerial extent. And we've been successful in zeroing in on a lot of these satellite deposits that share a lot of similarities to Colomac, and that being in terms of high grade and width, but they're all on surface. Nothing's been drilled below 100 meters. So there's your opportunity.
So I was just going to ask you, how deep do you go in these holes? Like you're saying 100 meters?
Well, outside of Colomac. Colomac's been drilled down to 600 meters in the high grade domains.
Okay.
But the rest of the sort of the near surface environment, most of the drill holes are, 200 to 300 meters.
So when are the drills going to be turning here for Nighthawk this year?
Next week. We begin the program.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought maybe because of the, so you're not waiting till May or anything like that.
No, we opened the camp in early or late February, start drilling, and by the end of the first week of March. We've done that in the past few years, and continue on till at least the end of September and possibly early October.
And just a question, where do you think you have to get to for a major to come along and say, you know, would you need to get to like 3 or 4 million ounces? Yeah,
traditionally it's always been, you know, the litmus test has been 3 million ounces. And if you don't have 3 million, you've got to have the real estate and the system that people can see 3 or better. And we've got that.
You've got that, yeah. And do you have big shareholders? Do you have some big shareholders?
We do. We have strategic shareholders as well as institutional. Strategics would be Kinross Gold. They own just under 10%. Same with the Cisco Royalties.
Okay.
And Northfield Capital owns about 17-18%.
Wow. So the float, when you're talking 191 million shares or whatever, and you back out these big shareholdings, the float shrinks down quite fast.
Quite fast, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how many holes do you plan on drilling here this year? Well, it's 25,000 meters. You're looking at a couple hundred meters per average?
Yeah, we'll probably do 70 to 80 holes.
Wow.
You know, throughout, and that's, like I said, about 50% of the holes will be drilled at Colomac to prep us for a resource update in early 2020. And the other 50% will be on our satellite properties, what we've had great success with over the past year.
Just out of curiosity, how many people will be at your camp?
Well, upwards of 35, 40 people are there.
Yeah,
right?
so obviously
we're in full bore. We'll be working the drills. We have 3 drills on site.
Yeah.
So we'll drill. Those will be operational throughout the program, as well as we have prospecting and mapping teams active throughout the summer as well.
And when do you expect to have initial results from this program?
Well, probably if we started in March, late May, probably, possibly early June.
And then you'll have continuous news flow?
Continuous, every say 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, is there anything you want to add?
Well, basically, you know, think about this opportunity as getting a position in a junior that's acquired a really robust asset at a bargain basement price right now that strategics are already looking at and paying attention to what we're doing.
And quite frankly, gold has had, in Canadian dollars, for sure, a pretty good move. Like, you know, gold's not at a what I would call a bargain basement price. It's around 1,300 US, which is you know, close to what, 1,600 Canadian or something.
Yeah, as the price of gold goes up, as you know, the value of those ounces increase as well. And so we're really well positioned to take advantage of that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's leave it there. Nighthawk Gold, ticker NHK, drill results sometime late May.
Correct.
Thanks, Michael.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment.
Up next, that was very interesting. Up next, the CEO of VIVO Cannabis will be joining me in studio. VIVO Cannabis Inc., a Canadian licensed producer of cannabis, is headquartered in Napanee, Ontario. VIVO has a collection of premium brands including Beacon Medical, Fireside, and Lumina. In August 2018, VIVO acquired Canna Farms, a premium cannabis company based in Hope, British Columbia. VIVO Cannabis is focused on expanding its production capacity and pursuing partnership and product development opportunities domestically as well as in international markets, including Germany and Australia. VIVO Cannabis Inc. is listed on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol VIVO. What a pleasure joining us in the studio, the CEO of VIVO Cannabis, with so many stories, with so many insights. Barry Fishman, how are you, sir?
Nice to see you.
Look at you, working in the cannabis space. Now, you mentioned, before I get to all the questions I was going to ask you, you mentioned that your background was in healthcare.
Yeah. I've spent over 30 years in the pharmaceutical world, primarily with 2 companies, Eli Lilly for about 17 years and Teva for about 11 years. So I was my training ground in healthcare is pharmaceuticals. And it's sort of a lot of relation between pharma and cannabis, especially when it comes to dealing with doctors and understanding their expectations.
You know, it's interesting you say that about doctors, because about 3-4 years ago, I went to my GP and I said, you know, heard about the idea, this was before legalization, when it was medical cannabis, and at that time, doctors were uneducated, I think. I want to get your take on this. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. It's not that he was against it. At that point, he told me his association hadn't really looked into it. And then you fast forwarded now, it's on everyone's radar.
Well, I'll tell you, doctors are, they like clinical evidence. They like precise dosing.
Right.
They like to be educated before they prescribe any type of medication. And I think our industry is moving along the path of education and clinical experience. And I think that precise dosing is the next major breakthrough in cannabis. A company like us, VIVO Cannabis, we're working on products that provide precise dosing, capsules, inhalers, other forms of medication where doctors can feel comfortable prescribing, and I think that will lead more doctors to get on the medical cannabis bandwagon.
Yeah, because as you said in your opening remarks there, doctors want to have the comfort of knowing that if I'm prescribing for anxiety or anti-inflammation or migraines, you want to know exactly the dose that has been proven to help. Let's talk about your company. That's why you're here today. The announcement, the launch of Canna Farms integrated online medical cannabis website. Okay. Why is this significant?
Yeah, let me start off with 6 months ago we acquired a company called Canna Farms. Canna Farms is a BC-based cultivator.
Yes.
A craft producer, very, very good at what they do, one of the best known brands in the industry. And when we acquired Canna Farms, we had two separate LPs, Abcan and Canna Farms. And we decided to actually try to leverage the two brands, and we introduced one consolidated store.
Okay.
That consolidated store has over 40 strains. It has over 100 product presentations. And the reason why we did that is because we wanted our customers to have choice. I think choice is very important.
Absolutely.
They go on one site, they could buy a number of different strains in a number of presentations, in dry flower format, in oil format. It just provides choice.
I'm not sure if it says here. What is the actual website? What's it called?
Canna Farms.
Canna Farms.
You just go on Canna Farms.
CannaFarms.com?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this, I can see why it's significant, the announcement that you guys have done this. What does it mean for the consumers? I know you talked a little bit about choice. You know, oils especially being available is a bit of a breakthrough. It's not always available, and what? So the consumer will have more choice. What else will it be?
Well,
for
I guess when I say choice, I mean they'll have a variety of different product presentations, a variety of strains, and a variety of brands. So they'll have the Beacon Medical brand, they'll have the Canna Farms brand, and we will bring on other brands from other licensed producers as long as they meet our quality standards.
Okay. Last month you announced the appointment of Gary McMullen as Vice President, the Napanee operations. He's assumed his position, I guess, just this week. I want to talk about him because I find it fascinating, the idea that we don't even know the variations of cannabis-infused products. Now, his background's in the Muskoka Brewery. Does that have anything to do with why you hired him?
Well, we hired Gary because he's a fantastic entrepreneur.
Okay.
He's got a proven track record of building a business, and we believe what he learned at Muskoka breweries can be leveraged in the cannabis business. So we're super excited. Gary's on his 4th day on the job.
That's right.
And we're tremendously excited to having somebody of his talent and caliber.
Now, I know if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. But is there some thought, again, using someone like Gary's expertise? Because I know from some other companies I've done some research with, and there's a whole world of cannabis-infused beverages coming. I know that some companies are working on it. Is that something you guys are interested in?
Yeah. So one of our top priorities is product development for both the medical side and the adult use side. In our pipeline, we have products that are more suited to physician prescribing. We also have products that will be launched in the beverage and edible category.
Nice.
But we don't want Me Too products. We want to introduce our products with something unique and different. Something that customers will say, boy, I'm going to stay loyal to VIVO's products because they provide a great experience for me.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be a crowded marketplace, and best in class and best in product is going to be something that companies like yours, I can see, are going to want to establish, because, you know, no one remembers who's number 2.
Right.
You know, and it'll be interesting to see. And again, I look forward to it. You know, for instance, I also was looking here that in February you announced the subsidiary Abcan Medicinals Inc. You received approval for allowing the sale of cannabis oil, which, as I mentioned, wasn't always around. I think Health Canada hesitated or delayed only because they weren't sure about the efficacy of the product.
Yeah. So we think it's imperative to be involved in the concentrate part of the market.
Right.
You know, we started off as a seller of dry flower cannabis, just like everybody else.
Like everyone did, exactly.
But the market on the medical side, and eventually with beverages and edibles, will be, it'll be necessary to have capabilities in the area of oils and concentrates and extraction. So we're building internal capabilities to do that because we think the trend is towards those kind of products.
Well, it's a fascinating world. I was talking to Barry a little bit prior to us starting. You know, you're a gentleman, you're 61 years old, I'm 59 years old, and we're both, you know, in the 70s and the early 80s. I'm living in California, you know, and could never have imagined a world where a guy with your background or some of the people I've met this week, it's hard to get your head around these conversations we're having.
You know, Howard, 10 years ago we would have met each other and you said one day you'll be running a licensed producer making cannabis and selling cannabis. I would have said the chances of that are slim to none.
It's got to be mind-blowing to a guy like you, especially all the background in big pharma and Eli Lilly and all those things. And like I said, even 4 or 5 years ago when I started getting interested in medical marijuana and how that was being proposed, again, I couldn't have imagined a guy like you talking about, yeah, I got some cannabis oil, it's good for you. But I think people are, the baby boomers as we age, our later stages of life are going to be different than our parents and our grandparents because of this. I do believe that.
Absolutely. I can just say in my 35-year career, roughly, the last 17 months has been the most fascinating 17 months that I've had.
I can't even imagine.
It's just incredible.
Well, you're a lovely person.
Thank you very much.
Barry Fishman, everybody, is the CEO of VIVO Cannabis. TSX, it's VIVO, and VIVO was its name. Oh, Barry, thanks very much. In a minute, Ed will be back and we'll take a look at how the market performed today.
Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you've more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
and I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here. It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
All right, welcome back. Sometimes when Ed leaves the desk here, I get a little nervous. I'm like, without Ed, what if I have a question? I'll tell you one thing though, sir.
Yes, sir.
Today, this week, the people that I've had a chance to meet, you know, I look at a guy like you, 40 years in the world of investing, you know, background in mining. You look at a guy like Barry Fishman, guy's working for a big pharma company, and he just said, I don't know if you heard him say, the last 17 months of his career, the most exciting. I'd ask you, Edward, in all the years that you have been involved in markets, and as you say, trying to predict and look at signs, has the last couple of years been as exciting for you as well?
You know, that's a very deep question for me. Like, if I was to give you the proper answer, it would take a long time.
Well, we got a couple minutes.
So you know, to me, it's not about excitement. To me, it's about balance, and to do what's right based on the information. So I've been doing better things. I've been making a lot smarter moves because when I was younger, I didn't have control of this thing. So either you control this or this controls you. When you figure out there's a difference, life becomes much simpler.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most people don't control this. They let this control them.
You know, when I was younger, I'd hear old people talk about, you know, I wish I knew then what I know now what to do. I'll tell you, it is so true. Whether it's investing or taking care of yourself or relationships or whatever it is you're doing, you know, I see as you age, you start to get some perspective. I always tell my kids, I'm not wise, I just have been around enough to see, you know, people freaking out over winter. Well, we've seen 60 winters.
Yeah.
You know, winter comes, I'll tell you, every year Canadians have this thing like, well, maybe this will be the year that winter doesn't come. And it comes and we all freak out. But the point I'm trying to make is you have perspective. So with that perspective, are you seeing markets differently now? Are you making different moves now?
I've never traded the market better, ever. Not even, and listen, I've made, you know how many times I've made the same mistake over and over again?
You told me you've made every mistake.
Einstein says if you do it over and over and over again and expect different results, you're insane.
Yeah.
I was insane for a long time. And you know, it's about ego, it's about immaturity, it's about greed, it's about, you know, all these things. Like, you know, we talk about money management at the casino table.
Yeah.
If you don't manage that money, you ain't gonna have it very long.
I'm not sure if we talked about this on the show with you investment nerds or not, but you know, there's some strategy around blackjack. Both Ed and I like to play. I'm heading to Niagara Falls. As soon as the show's over, I'm going to be at Yuck Yucks at Niagara. Am I allowed to say that? I'm going to be at Yuck Yucks at Niagara Falls tonight.
Why wouldn't you?
I like to play blackjack, but we both agree that having the skill to play the actual game, 50% of that is managing your stack. Managing the way your money is, because then you manage your money well, you can mitigate your losses and take advantage of your gains. And kind of, I would say similar to markets. Speaking of which, let's have a look at how the markets performed today.
All right. We're going to talk about.
I think now I don't know. I was all excited about that segue.
Okay, well let's look at the S&P. Okay, so S&P, which is, you know, broad index, we got four. Just right off the top here, I want to point out, and I never used to look at candlesticks, but candlesticks tell you a lot of information. Mm-hmm. So look at, we've now had 4 red days in a row, right?
That's not good.
Well, if you look all the way down here, the last time we started having a series of reds was in the violent, precipitous decline that led into Christmas.
October, November, December, we're like, I got the shit kicked out of me.
It was brutal. It was one of the worst devastating eviscerations of all time.
Because I stopped watching. I had my head in the sand. Well, I thought it was just best if I just stopped paying attention to it.
Now, what if this is another beginning of a steep decline?
I don't know.
And how does anybody know? So here's what I would say: if you were fortunate enough to recoup a lot of money in here, on this move, like you know, we got. And I think I showed you, if you draw that line straight, it's veering. It's veering. And now you can see how these lines are flattening out.
Yeah.
Now, what's that telling you? I mean, that's just telling you that this ascent is not as powerful. It's losing energy.
So typically when things like this happen, because, you know, I remember saying in the fall, well, generally October is not a great month for investment. November was weak. December was as weak. And then all of a sudden we got that little ride, as you just pointed out. January, February, a lot of the losses people had in the last quarter of 2018 started to bounce back. But you're saying, or I think what you're saying is maybe...
That was a dead cat bounce.
It was a dead cat? What the frick does it... What are you talking about? I've heard that phrase before. What does it mean?
It means that...
You throw a cat off a building?
So
You're a bad
there's
cat
a bounce. Sitter. There's a bounce.
Yes.
But it ain't going anywhere.
It's not going up.
It was the last little dead cat bounce. Thump.
So you're saying somebody said, hey, Ed, watch my cat. You threw it off a building, it didn't bounce. You said, sorry about that. Here's your cat back.
Although, you know, they say a cat can withstand a pretty good, and land on its feet. So maybe it was already dead to begin with. I'm looking at this sector, this marijuana sector, as being...
Yes. Well, let's talk about it in marijuana sector specifically.
Let's look at the HMMJ.
Yeah, let's look at the HMMJ, which are all the marijuana stocks cobbled together.
Yeah.
Because did it not have a similar downturn in the fall, uptick in the beginning of the year?
We were talking earlier to Ben about correlation.
Yeah.
Well, you just put up the two charts and you can see lots of correlation. Not identical, but it doesn't have to repeat itself. It just has to rhyme.
Well, let's see how it performed today.
Okay, so let's see. HMMJ.
HMMJ.
So
okay.
Here we go. Okay, so again.
Okay, show me today. Where am I looking?
That last red line. That last vertical red line.
Right.
Which is a bad day.
But volume doesn't look like it's been. Volume looks pretty steady there.
Yeah, you know what? It's still early. Like Ben said, he said his view is that this was a modest pullback so far. So modest pullback so far. No panic yet. Panic ain't going to happen here. Panic's going to happen down in here.
Somebody better tell me when to panic.
Well, if you protect your money now, you won't have to panic.
Well, it's like we're saying about blackjack. Protect your stack. You know, you got to know when to take your losses, mitigate. You know, and then stay there for the gains. I'm just laughing at somebody who's watching us on YouTube. They said the new guy. I like the new guy. His lack of experience is perfect because he's asking the right questions. Hey, I'm going to tell you. I know a little bit.
Yeah, no.
I know a little bit about investing. I know a lot about weed.
You know, be careful of people in this business that are very glib and they can talk well. And, you know, how can I say this without, like what the guy just said, you know, your frankness and your sincerity about not, you know, you don't know much about it.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's refreshing because I only reason I think I know quite a bit about it is because of 40 years of watching this shit.
Well, this is what you do.
40 years.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of mistakes. And now I'm almost, whenever I start to make that mistake, I say, stupid, it never worked before. Why should it work now?
You know, there's a school of thought that talks about how people learn how your brain works. And one of the things that, you know, whether it's a motor skill or a new world for me like investing, you have to draw on past experience. So I have some past experience investing, just not in this sector, and not at the level that you and James and everyone around here is very, very comfortable. But I do listen, and what I've learned this week is, you know, if it looks too good, it is. Sometimes everyone's got a lot of people with a good story, but not good fundamentals. And you got to watch who you pay attention to. And even listening to you took some profit on one of these stocks, Amex.
Yeah, Amex. It got hammered, and I started buying it around $1.07, and I bought more in the 90s, and I bought more in the 80s, and I kept increasing as it went down because I felt that the story was intact, and I was able to sell all the way up again, and I sold some as high as $1.39 today. Now, that's just, you know, that's maybe a little lucky to get that last price because it peaked at $1.40. It's now $1.25. So I've made nice money. And I've taken that money, and that money is safe for at least till tomorrow.
Look at you.
At least till tomorrow.
That's a real guy there, folks. Huh? I get to talk to him. That's a real man. That's an investment man. All right, we're going to talk more with Ed. Up next, the CEO of Zenabis, a company that has been in the news a lot lately, will be joining me in the studio, so hang on.
Zenabis Global Inc. is a Canadian-based licensed cannabis cultivator of medical and recreational cannabis within New Brunswick, British Columbia, and Nova Scotia. Once their facility space is fully built, Zenabis will own and have access to 660,000 square feet of high-quality indoor cannabis production space, as well as 2.1 million square feet of greenhouse space at its Langley facility. Zenabis has established distribution relationships with government and third-party retailers and distributors in 9 Canadian jurisdictions. The company has also announced an agreement with Shoppers Drug Mart to serve medical patients across Canada. Zenabis Global Inc. is listed on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol ZENA.
Well, what a pleasure to welcome the CEO of Zenabis. You know, here's the weird thing. For about the last 20, 30 seconds, I've been practicing saying Zenabis, not Zenabis. Anyway, the real thing is this. He's the CEO of Zenabis Global. Andrew Grieve, welcome.
Thank you.
You know, we're just sitting here talking to you, and we're going to get into all kinds of questions about investing, about how the stock is doing, how the company is doing. But I got to tell you, just listening to you tell me a bit about your background and how you came from, you know, what did you say,
investment banking, essentially.
Investment banking, and now here you are, rocking the cool lid, the cool T-shirt. You're like the quintessential. To me, you look like the quintessential cannabis investment executive. It's like you've got this cool thing, but you've also got all this background in finance that allows you to run a company like yours. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is it more fun sort of running a cannabis you know, gig versus, you know, working in Brooks Brothers suits all day?
Absolutely. Yeah, I much prefer to be dressed like this and to be wearing the hat of the company that I run than work in a suit each day and negotiate with other bankers.
Well, I can't imagine that it's such an exciting time to be in this field, and we've got so many things to get to. Let's just do it in order of, you know, it's happened just recently. On the 4th of March, your company entered into a letter of engagement with 8 Capital, under which 8 Capital has agreed to purchase 15,000 unsecured convertible debentures. Why don't you take it from there, Andrew, and just explain to me like I'm a baby child, exactly what this means for your company and how it's going to affect the company going forward.
8 Capital guaranteed us $15 million in capital, and in addition, they're going to secure us an additional $60 million in capital, all of which will be utilized for the purpose of converting our existing facilities. We have 4 facilities across the country, in Delta, in Atholville, New Brunswick, in Stellarton, Nova Scotia, where that facility just received its cultivation license, and in Langley in British Columbia. So we'll be using the $75 million in order to continue the conversion of our facilities.
And Delta's in the interior of
Delta is also in British Columbia. It's also in the Lower Mainland.
And so in practical terms, this just gives you more growing space, a chance to grow more product, increase the amount you can make, and so this is taking effect immediately. When will the effect of this take effect?
If you look at our construction profile at the moment, our Atholville facility will be complete by June of 2019. That'll have 34,000 kilograms of production. Our Stellarton facility will have the next 4,000 kilograms complete within the next couple of months, and then we'll decide from there what to do with the remainder of that facility. But our Langley facility, upon full build-out, will have 426,000 kilograms of production capacity, and we'll have the first more than 90,000 kilograms of production capacity complete by June of 2019.
So in layman's terms, and I've been sort of nibbling around the cannabis space for a couple of years now, and it seems to me the companies that are going to be the leaders, the most successful companies like yours, are the ones that are going to have the most capacity. Is that not kind of what you're all shooting for?
Absolutely. It's not just capacity, it's also capacity that has with it a low marginal cost of production. Because,
well, of course.
Yeah. So if you had a significant amount of capacity, but it was very expensive to actually produce in that facility, then your capacity wouldn't necessarily be relevant long term because you'd be pushed out of the market by lower cost producers. It's essential to have both the capacity and to have that capacity have a low marginal cost of production. And that's what we're going to achieve.
So in essence, I'm correct in saying that the company that gets the most capacity at the lowest cost the quickest will have an advantage when it comes to market. And that's why 8 Capital's engagement with you is so important, because it does increase your capacity and I'm assuming keeps your costs down.
It increases our capacity, and then we're building our facilities in a way where we will have a very low marginal cost of production.
Okay, next up on there's so many things that have been going on with your company. You've just been approved to cultivate and grow at your 255,000 square foot facility in Stellarton, Nova Scotia. This represents your third facility in Canada, licensed to grow, adding a design capacity of 18,500 kilograms of dried cannabis a year. What is that all about?
That is all about the fact that we are now able to grow in our Nova Scotia facility.
Right.
I was there this week on Monday to make the announcement. The announcement was attended by the MP, Bob Fraser. It was attended by the local MLA. It was attended by the chief of the Millbrook First Nation.
Unbelievable.
It was attended by the mayor. Everybody was absolutely ecstatic about the fact that we had our facility approved. We've started cultivation there. We're bringing jobs to this community, and we're going to continue to build out that facility. And we're absolutely excited as well, because not only are we building that out, but we're excited about delivering for community stakeholders too. One of our core values is delivery of stakeholder value. And that may mean delivery of shareholder value, but it also means delivering for our employees and delivering for our local communities. For example, in New Brunswick, we have 231 employees now working at our Atholville facility. I was there the last 2 days speaking with them. To me, delivery of stakeholder value also means ensuring that they have fantastic jobs, the ability to move up and progress in a brand new industry, and really to bring those communities opportunities.
There's so many things about what you just said. I just find it fascinating. As somebody that's nearly 60 years old and, grew up in an environment of, cannabis being illegal and quiet and hush-hush and, you don't want anyone to know. All of a sudden, when I hear you talk about, opening a facility and the mayor's there and all the dignitaries of the town and everyone's out there in nice lab coats and cutting ribbons and things, I just think it's amazing. And there's a lot of people that suffered a lot in this country, medicinally, recreationally, and then all of a sudden, there's a guy like you that brings all this expertise and is opening facilities across the country. And as you say, not just for shareholder value, but with an eye to a modern, like people your age, it's like you have a sense of community as it relates to your own employees, which I think is fantastic.
Oh, absolutely, and I think it's essential. But what you were talking about is the fact that the government of Canada chose to give people choice. And they didn't just choose to give people choice from a recreational standpoint,
right,
where people deserve choice. People deserve to have the right to decide how they want to have fun. But from a medicinal standpoint, people deserve to have the right to choose how to deal with their ailments.
Yes.
And when you have the acceptance of the concept of choice, then it's amazing. And it can be amazing for communities, for employees,
absolutely,
but also for the people who want to use this product. And it's the right thing to do to give people choice.
Just quickly before I leave, the fact that you're, part of your raison d'etre, your reason to be as a company, and you as a human being, it seems to me, is to make sure that people who work for you are having a more modern experience. When I was your age, even 25 years ago, I don't think companies cared about the health and welfare of their own employees. And I think it cultivates a different type of company. And again, if I was looking to invest in a cannabis company, I might want to look and see how you treat the people that work for you and with you, as well as the shareholder value you bring. Does that seem too sappy to you? Because I think it's important.
I don't think it is sappy, because another component of our values, or one of our values, is responsibility.
Yes.
And responsibility, again, is this component where you need to have your employees take responsibility,
right,
and you as an individual need to take responsibility. I was in the facility yesterday in Atholville, and one of the employees walked up to me and he said, "I know that you don't get paid. And I think it's amazing that you're willing to bet on the success of the company and not take a salary." I said, absolutely, but I'm not just betting on the success of the company. I'm betting on all of the people who are going to contribute to the success of the business. And so you as employees are just as important to me as I am to you, because I can't earn $1 from doing this work until June of 2021. And the thresholds for me to actually get paid for being the CEO are incredibly high. I set them. And my perspective was, those thresholds are the right thresholds, where if I don't meet those thresholds, I deserve nothing, because I haven't delivered for the employees and I haven't delivered for the shareholders.
Well, again, that's a very sort of 2019 approach to. Wait a second. Let's go back to the part where you say you're not getting paid. Okay, forget that.
I don't get a salary or a short-term incentive plan.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you got a nice pen. I borrowed your pen.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Shobana's pen, and I can't even get a pen.
Do you get free hats and stuff?
I actually paid for this hat to be made personally.
Oh, come on!
No, I did.
This guy's. You know what? This guy's too good. A couple quick things before I let you go. You talked about choice. You said I'm just reading here. You reached a letter of intent with Société Québécoise du Cannabis to supply your premium cannabis products to Quebec. That's going to happen in the second quarter of 2019. I guess that's just another distribution channel you're happy about?
Absolutely. We're very excited. We have developed fantastic relationships with provincial counterparties across this country, and we've done it by being open in terms of our approach to them, telling them exactly what we have, what we can deliver, and when we can't, and people have responded by wanting to be our customers.
Okay, a lot of people fascinated about you and your stock. We have a question from Twitter. Please provide more detail on how Zenabis intends to work with, I can't see, SWED, with and expand through partnerships and First Nations communities.
A lot of great examples here. The Millbrook First Nation from Nova Scotia was in attendance at the opening of our Stellarton facility. You mentioned that. Chief Bob Glode. And part of what we talked about, first of all, he's an investor in Zenabis. That First Nation made a $5 million investment in our company. And we're incredibly grateful for what they've done for us and for their willingness to invest. He wanted to talk about jobs, economic opportunities for his region, how he could ensure that we considered people from his community for employment. And part of what he wanted to talk about was the fantastic program that we have with the Listigouche First Nation out of Quebec, right across the river from us in New Brunswick at our Atholville facility. We have a cultivation technician training program with the Listigouche. We employ a significant number of people from the Listigouche First Nation. They invested $3 million in our business, and we're very excited to have them as partners. Chief Darcy from the Listigouche is an incredibly forward-thinking individual and really is doing the right thing for his community.
Well, as I said to you a minute or so ago, Andrew, it seems like there's a whole ethical aspect to the way you do business, the way Zenabis is planning to do business with all your partners, First Nations included. You know, like I said, I think it's just smart. It's a great story that you have, but it's just smart and good business. In the end, everyone's going to be a winner here. Before we let you go, in February as well, formally entering the Alberta recreational cannabis market, supplying retailers throughout the province with an agreement with the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Commission. Tell us a little bit about that before we let you go. And I want to talk quickly about the agreement with Shoppers Drug Mart, because I think that, my friend, that's where the revolution is.
Okay. AGLC, we entered into an agreement to supply them with recreational cannabis. As I believe I mentioned before, now 8 provinces and 1 territory. We're very excited to continue to expand our distribution.
Well, when I say about Shoppers, you know, I've been harping on this for some time now, that when people first heard about legalization, it was all titter, titter, giggle, giggle, now we can get weed. And as I said, we could always get weed. What you couldn't do is extract the benefits, the health benefits from the cannabis. And I said, one day when you can walk into Shoppers Drug Mart, and you've proven that, that model of nutraceuticals, or whatever the phrase is, cannabiseuticals. By the way, if you start using that, I want to.
Of course, understood. Yeah.
But I think that, you know, for companies like yours is really where the big growth is going to be.
Dr. Zaid Mohammed Ali, who is our chief medical officer, is looking at performing a wide range of studies from a medicinal standpoint. Baseline studies in order to establish the impact of cannabis on the brain, a variety of other studies, some things that are really close to my heart. So PTSD, as someone who is still in the military, our chief administrative officer spent more than 25 years in the British Army in the regular force. These things really matter. And so not only can we build a business that delivers value to communities and to employees and to shareholders, but again, we actually have the ability to deliver value to our customers beyond simply the recreational side, but also on the medicinal side, and it's awesome.
Well, I got to tell you, what a great example of, if you do the right thing, you know, then good things will follow. Yeah, you know, in 2021, you hope to finally get paid for your gig, but in the end, you'll get paid more because people will want to give your company money based on how you run your company.
Absolutely, that's the bet.
Andrew Grieve, the CEO of Zenabis, TSXV ZENA, ZENA. What a pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much.
Andrew Grieve, everybody.
Talk to me. Like I have a network. There's 3,000 names in here.
I'm telling you this.
Okay, we're on the phone.
No, I know we're here.
I didn't know. I forgot.
I'm doing it.
Okay. Sorry.
Leave this part to me.
I didn't know. I forgot.
You forgot we're doing a show.
You got me excited.
I got Ed telling me stories and.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Ed and I are going to be just hanging out now because he knows what he's doing.
We'll go to your buddy's studio.
Yes, we'll go to my buddy's studio. Let's take a look at what's coming up tomorrow. Why can't I read that? Aleafia.
Aleafia.
Yeah, Aleafia Health just announced they've received approval from the TSX to graduate from the TSX Venture. Continue.
That's all it is.
That's it.
That's it.
Graduate from the oh, I see. They've graduated from the TSX to the TSX Venture. Also, they went from the kids' table to the grown-ups' table.
That's correct.
They graduated to the TSX.
Correct.
Not from the TSX. Ricky. Ricky's already out of here. She's on her way to New York City. She doesn't care anymore.
Why does it say coming up Thursday? Just curious.
I don't know.
Today's Thursday.
Today is Thursday. Coming up tomorrow, Dan Hatche, NORAM Ventures Incorporated, Jeffrey Bennett, Aleafia Health Inc.
That's the news.
That's the news.
Good question to ask him.
Graduated to the TSX from the kids' table. Kids' table is so annoying. Benjamin A. Smith, Benny and the Smiths. He'll be up. We're going to talk to him. While we had a little break, I was talking to Ed. I love this. Ed says that you buy when things are oversold and you sell when things are overbought. Let's listen in to Ed's brain as he explains that.
Hello? Anybody home? Yeah, so look, this is the only area where people tend to buy more as it goes up because of greed.
Right.
They see the trend and they buy. But we know no trend lasts forever.
No, sir.
And things have corrections and they sell off. So at best, if you have a few indicators like the relative strength indicator, or use Bollinger Bands or stochastics, these things tell you when things are overbought, oversold. Mm-hmm. So look, if you're buying when things are extremely overbought, you're going to have trouble because you're going to have a correction. Wait for the correction.
If you're buying it when it's overbought, you're buying it at a premium, and you're going to pay more for it. If you're buying it when it's oversold.
The problem, Howard, is this. If you went to the day before Christmas this year and the market had just done the worst that it ever did, like that stretch was one of the worst sell-offs in a short period of time.
It was pretty gross.
You're staring into the abyss.
Yes, sir.
You're thinking, holy fuck, what did I just do? Right?
Yeah.
And so excuse my French.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you want to be buying then, which is almost impossible to do because you're all alone.
But that's what people, I think that's the mistake people make because it's emotional. They think, oh, these are dark times.
Great.
Voldemort is coming back. And then you're saying, oh, that's when you buy.
Well, yeah, there's going to be...
It's scary.
Okay, I can show you a chart of one of the big ones, Afria.
All right, show me.
Okay, let's take a look.
We got a couple more minutes. If you investment nerds don't mind, let's Ed chart it up a bit.
Chart it up.
Let's chart it up.
Chart it up. And what I want to point out here, there's some bad news that came out.
What chart is this?
Okay, this is Afria.
Oh, this is Afria.
This is a big cannabis company, and there was some really bad news. And I want to look at these two bands here. There's a top band, and there's a bottom band.
Yes, sir.
These are your Bollinger Bands. Okay.
Yeah, he wants you to refresh it.
Well, let's just put.
We're just talking about it. Don't worry. I think we get it.
Okay.
We're fine.
So when this thing really sold off, they usually go like down in here.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Maybe you should refresh it so people can see what we're talking about. They have a point, you know. Right now it's a show with two old guys looking at a computer. Kind of seems
that's so put the we're gonna get this thing back on here. Anyway, there was bad news. The company was trashed. The stock dropped down to $4.90 very, very quickly. Unbelievable.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you know what?
I know the camera's on me. I'm looking like an interested bystander.
Here, okay, now do it.
I'll just keep staring at you people. I don't care. What's happening right now is somebody you can't see is trying to fix Ed's computer. It's like when the Geek Squad shows up, except with an accent. It's Geek Squad from Ireland. There he is. That's what I want to see. It's Donald. It's Donald Corkery. Feckin' Dex.
We're gonna do this.
We're gonna wrap up the show.
We're gonna wrap up, but we'll get back to it tomorrow.
We're gonna get back to it.
The point
Don't
is,
even worry about it. We got 60 seconds left.
When it looks the worst, that's the best buy.
When it looks the worst, that's when you buy.
It's hard to do.
It's hard to do.
Hard to do.
Because on Christmas Eve, when you saw that dark, dark tunnel of
the other thing, Howard,
nothingness.
that people do is like there's a lot of margin players in short term, so they're in the margin. Now, if obviously things are dropping precipitously, their accounts are being sold.
To be continued, young man. We're going to talk tomorrow.
Okay, you gotta
go. Thanks for having me. I'm going to fill in for James one more day. Thanks to Connor, Donald Corkery, Connor, Donald, Simon, Suzanne, and of course Ed, and as always the producer Ricky Gerwitz, who apparently won't be here tomorrow. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. And thank you for
Let's shut her down.
For your patience. You take care. Have a good day.